Okay, students, want to talk about blood, of course, something that's very important in our bodies and actually very important in everything in a bunch of other organisms. All right, so good old blood. All right, so blood has a number of different functions, actually. And you can break blood down to different categories, different segments, different functionalities, and so on and so forth there. So there's a lot of things that we can just talk about blood. And basically, the I guess the official name or study of blood is hematology. But blood, and depending upon the blood cells, but blood can transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. So those are the red blood cells or the erythrocytes. We'll talk about that. Transport food, waste products, and hormones. Blood can actually help to regulate temperature in the body. I don't know, like an example would be, say, if you see someone coming in from the cold and their cheeks are kind of like red and rosy, well, that's actually a physiological factor where that your body is sensing cold air on the skin. So your vessels are going to dilate and try to push more blood out to the closer to the surface of your skin to try to counteract the cold air to warm you up a little bit. So blood does have a role in terms of temperature regulation. Let's see here. Helps to control pH. We know that pH goes from 0 to 14, 7 being a neutral. Controlling water balance, defense against infections, and those are primarily the WBCs, the white blood cells. We'll talk about that later. White blood cells or leukocytes. And then blood clotting, and those are the thrombocytes or the platelets. We'll talk about that later. Blood pH is it's around 7.4, so ever so slightly above neutral. That's kind of a little bit more in the basic, or in other words, the alkaline range, but ever so slight before neutral, above neutral, because we know that neutral is at 7. Viscosity, kind of the thickness, that can fluctuate from person to person, patient to patient, depending upon a number of different factors. In the temperature of blood, somewhere around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equivalent to 37 degrees Celsius. I just added the 37 degrees Celsius because that is based on the metric system, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, based on the older standard system that we use here in the United States. But pretty much the rest of the world, all but the United States and maybe I think 2 other countries, the rest of the world uses the metric system. We, of course, here in the United States, we deal with the metric system a little bit. Like, if you get a 2-liter thing of pop, that's metric. But again, like I said, I want to put both those values there, just so that you know. All right, so you may have wondered, someone may have wondered, okay, why is it that the veins, as you see here, why do our veins look blue? And there's a myth. I want to kind of dispel the myth. There's a myth that, hey, blood actually, when it's low in oxygen or deoxygenated, is blue in color. And actually, that is not the case. Actually, blood that is deoxygenated actually is more of a darker red maroon color. But as you can see here clearly in this picture, yeah, it's blue looking. Well, why is that? Well, let's just talk about that. Well, when light, basically when we have light that's out, it's white light. So white light includes all the different colors. So when light falls on the skin, on the blue wavelength of light reaches the veins and is reflected back to our eyes. Hence, the veins appear blue. So in other words, kind of like this, and that is, you see that? That's red. So what's happening here is that basically the white light is hitting this color, and this color is absorbing all colors of light except for red. Red is being reflected back. That's why we are seeing red. Same thing here, green. All colors are hitting it and being absorbed by the green. However, the wavelength green is being bounced back, reflected back into our eyes. That's why we're able to see green, but all the other colors are being absorbed. So again, here's just an example again of how this plays out. As you can see, this is just coming from a light bulb, and with a variety of different kinds of light, kind of like the Roy G. Biv that you may have learned in art class. And as you can see, the only light that's actually being bounced back, okay, is blue. Why? Because the veins that, again, that does not have blue blood, but based upon the wavelength of the light of the reds and the yellows and the orange and the greens, the blue is able to penetrate it the furthest there, and it bounces back. So the veins are able to absorb all these other colors here except for blue. That's why blue bounces back, and that's why we are able to see blue. But again, like I said, the color of the blood in our veins, not blue. So again, you might wonder, well, geez, I mean, all my life I've been seeing pictures like this where you have red and blue. I think that these are just some pictures that, yeah, it gives us the impression that the blood is blue, but I think that basically they use the different colors to differentiate the fact that red blood vessels are carrying what? Oxygenated blood, whereas the blue blood vessels are carrying the deoxygenated blood. So to represent the colors of what it really looks like, it's kind of more of a bright red and a dark red. It'll be harder to distinguish both of those colors in a figure like this. So the real color of oxygenated blood. Okay, again, oxygenated blood is basically just higher in oxygen. Red blood cells have hemoglobin, so it's picked up the oxygen, so it's bright red. And you have deoxygenated blood, where that it's lower in oxygen. So again, like I said, this is the kind of blood this is the color of the blood that you'll find in veins. It's not blue. It's just more of a darker red, maroon kind of red color. I found this also, I think. So this is just highly oxygenated blood and more of the deoxygenated blood. And this is kind of like the color of the blood. Say maybe you go to the doctor and get a blood draw, and they take blood out of a venal puncture, and they take blood out from you in one of those tubes. And it tends to look like this color. All right, so the composition of blood. So blood is pretty much made up of, you got plasma, about 55% of it, white blood cells, again, that play a role in the immune system defense, and platelets that play a role in what? Blood clotting, and red blood cells that play a role in carrying oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout the body. So if you were to put blood in a tube, and actually you can actually spin it down and work and spin the blood down in a centrifuge. I've done this many times when I worked in the laboratory. Blood will separate. You can actually put blood in the tube, and actually it will separate on its own based on gravity. It will take a while, but you can separate blood that looks like this or anything and through centrifugation in, gosh, 5 to 10 minutes. This is kind of more of a realistic picture of it there, right? So you have the plasma, okay, that's the top. The RBCs, or in other words, erythrocytes, they're on the bottom. Why are they on the bottom? Because they weigh the heaviest. And then you have the white blood cells that are right here in the middle. We often call this the buffy coat. All right, so that's the white blood cells. I actually kind of added this picture there because you see this. You have a larger buffy coat of white blood cells. That's from a patient that has leukemia, which is cancer of the white blood cells. So they're producing an abnormally large number of white blood cells. Okay, so again, plasma, and what's contains in the plasma? Water, different kinds of ions, proteins, a whole bunch of proteins, albumin, and a whole bunch of things. Nutrients that we need for it to be for all of our cells to receive the nutrients in order to survive. Waste products, our cells produce waste products, so the blood actually will pick up the waste products and get rid of it. We'll get rid of it in terms of waste gas, breathing it out, or get rid of the waste products, say in urine. And that's like, say, like one of the gases, like a waste gas that it'll help to get rid of will be, say, carbon dioxide. Again, like I said, the red blood cells on the bottom, white blood cells right there, the buffy coat, and the plasma above. Serum versus plasma. Just know that, yes, so serum basically is plasma minus the clotting factors. All right, so you have serum here, plasma here. Okay, so serum is plasma. All right, so serum equals plasma minus the clotting factors. And you see how basically you have the blood clotting factors here where blood's actually clotting there. All right, so yes, that's the interesting thing about serum and plasma. So again, blood equals cells plus plasma. So plasma is a clear straw liquid. It's a clear straw colored liquid portion of the blood in which other cells are suspended. Serum, on the other hand, is the undiluted extracellular portion of the blood after adequate coagulation is completed. So because blood has a tendency to coagulate, so when blood has coagulated, and then that which is left, the extracellular portion, and we mean by extracellular, kind of more so beyond the cells, outside the cells, and then that's what you get. Blood proteins are proteins present in the blood. The blood not associated physically with blood cells, such as serum. So these are some like the blood proteins, albumins, globulins, and coagulation factors. And this is just talking about basically where blood proteins actually can play a role, not can, but does actually play a huge role in some of the things that the blood, particularly blood cells, actually do. And hopefully we'll get on some level or another, we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so here we are, the three major blood cells. Again, so we have the red blood cells. We also call them erythrocytes. You have the platelets, we call them thrombocytes. And we have the white blood cells, what you call the leukocytes. I would try to write them out, but gosh, this thing is it's kind of, I mean, if I try to write with this, it'll look like hieroglyphics there. But in some future slides, I actually have it typed out and you'll be able to see it. So again, red blood cells, erythrocytes, their primary role is to carry oxygen throughout the body. They'll pick up carbon dioxide and move around the body because, of course, all of our cells need oxygen and carbon dioxide. The platelets, the thrombocytes, blood clotting, and then the white blood cells are part of the defense mechanism. So this is just a picture of a vessel where the red blood cells and platelets and white blood cells are moving about. A lot of times we'll find blood in bones. Okay, so that's basically where the blood basically is formed. If you were to open up a chicken bone, you'll see marrow. Okay, and that's basically where a lot of the blood cells or anything will originate. So again, you have the red blood cells. Okay, and interesting thing about the red blood cells do not have a nucleus. So that's a nucleus. That is where the genetic material is found. Okay, gosh, it's hard to write. So, so red blood cells do not have a nucleus, whereas white blood cells, all right, platelets, they have a nucleus. Red blood cells do not have a nucleus, and it's kind of a different shape type of thing. So that's important to know that red blood cells are what we call anucleated. All right. So again, red blood cells, erythrocytes, white blood cells, leukocytes, platelets, thrombocytes. And it's just another slide just showing the three different blood cells. So one more time, red blood cells carry oxygen, all right, to different parts of the body so that our organs and our cells and our tissues can receive the oxygen to do things like the brain, like the stomach, like the kidneys, like the heart. All cells need oxygen. Okay, and the red blood cells deliver that, and the red blood cells will will play a role in helping to take carbon dioxide from our cells and taking it to our lungs so that we can exhale the carbon dioxide out. White blood cells, again, part of the defense measures of our body, and platelets play a role in blood clotting.